And we are live. Hello, everyone. Hope you are having a wonderful Friday. And thank you for joining me for, I think it's the 6th Level Up Live. So thanks for those joining me from LinkedIn or from YouTube or having logged into Streamyard. Let's go ahead. Today, our focus is going to be on micromanagement and how do we shift that to macromanagement. And that's going to be our topic covering today. But before we start, there's quite a lot of new people who have joined my kind of community and seeing my posts. So very shortly, I am Zora. Spent 20 years in HR, last 9 years with Apple before I then said, you know what, what's next for me? And decided to go solo and start my own little company here in Switzerland, where I've lived around 20 years. Originally, I'm from Finland. I'm a licensed psychologist, so everything that I do comes from evidence-based methods. And also, I'm an executive developer. I've been coaching through the 20 years, and now as well, over 400 executives. And executive behaviors and impact leads directly into culture impact. So that's why I'm also a culture builder. I help companies and corporate teams with culture change journeys. But you didn't come to here to listen about me. So let's dive in. How do we change to macromanagement instead of micromanagement? That's our focus for today. So, and like always, it makes me feel a bit more comfortable when you write a little note to the chat. If you, from wherever you are looking at this, so that I know the audio is working and you are seeing me, and that you are there. Makes me feel a bit more like this is a conversation rather than a monologue. So today, the pain we are going to discuss today is micromanagement. And how does it look like? What are the behaviors? And also, what are the root causes of it, right? And then what we are also going to look into is what is the silent damage? And sometimes it's not so silent, to be really honest, of micromanagement. Afterwards, we are going to look at, okay, so what's the change that needs to happen? And for that, I'm offering macromanagement as a little wordplay. And I've created something cool, like a self-assessment tool for leaders that you can, after this session, put in your pocket, do first with yourself and think, where am I in between micro and macromanagement? And if you do, then then share with others as well. And if at any point you have any questions, just feel free to put in to the chat, and I'll answer as much as I can. Right. So the micromanager wound, the pain. So when I talk about a behavior change by design, I start always by identifying what's the pain. What's the behavior that's generating a negative impact or unwanted impact? And although there are very many environments and situations where micromanagement actually can save lives, there are also the downside of micromanagement if that is done in the wrong place, wrong time, with the wrong people as well. So micromanagement, so constant monitoring of tasks, overriding team decisions, over-detailed instructions, lack of empowerment. These are the kind of common descriptors of a micromanagers. But what are the root causes? What are the root causes that you think are causing that people are leading with a micromanagement approach? What do you think? Please share in the chat. Hello, Maria. Nice to have you again on board. Please share with me on the chat what are the root causes that can cause people to actually micromanage? What do you think? I see insecurity. Yes. Insecurity, perfectionism. There you go. Very good. There are many, but what I want to share with you are maybe the three most common ones. And the first one is the imposter syndrome. People who feel like they feel insecure of themselves and therefore try to micromanage to avoid exposure and avoid to be seen that they might not be who they pretend to be. This is the typical imposter syndrome where people feel like, oh my goodness, if people see me that I'm a fraud and I'm not as good as they think. So they might be leaning into micromanagement due to insecurity and that fear of being exposed, and then they become perfectionists and try to do everything correctly. Maria already shared their need to control for whatever reason. I love the whatever, because that's exactly the case sometimes. That's actually also in the third one that I'm going to share. Cognitive dissonance, risk aversion, and fear of failure. Let me explain to you this one. Some of leaders believe in empowerment. They believe in delegation, and they maybe start a meeting or a project with, okay, let's do this. And there's workshops and whatnot. And then when it comes to the execution and when there is a risk of failure, that's when the tiny little micromanager pushes out of them, and they see it and justify it as I come to the rescue. I have to step in. And often it's almost a blind spot. They think that they are not a micromanager, and they are very empowering and delegating because they've done that bit. But when it comes to a place where the kind of dissonance, or it's called discomfort, when there's a risk and they should, instead of leaning in and fixing it and micromanaging, they would need to manage their own discomfort, step back and manage that kind of ambiguity and discomfort that they have. They struggle with that. And then they shift gears into a more micromanagement way. So that's the difference between the imposter is a person who might not even ever operate in a non-micromanaging way, whereas somebody who has that more cognitive discomfort between I believe in it, but actually I feel really uncomfortable at times with it. That's the difference with the two. And then, as Maria also said, there is also one reason that drives micromanagement is the need for control and sometimes power. And maybe protecting the image as well. In my previous Level Up Live, I talked about toxic leaders. Not every micromanager is a toxic leader, but toxic leaders have micromanager tendencies because it helps them to maintain dominance and maintain a protecting image. Let's see what I hear, Luke. Hello, Luke. Yes, healing a micromanager fosters a trust and growth. Absolutely, Luke. Thanks for sharing that one. It is definitely healing the micromanager wound and understanding that as a leader, but also as a HR or people partners, it's really key, because otherwise you won't be able to shift anywhere. So thank you, Luke, for using the word healing. I would use often the word shifting, because sometimes, you know what, the micromanager mode is needed. Let's imagine COVID times or emergency situation. You need those who will tell you exactly what to do. But if that's the only mode you know, that's going to be a bit tricky for your team potentially. Then, so what's the silent or the not so silent damage? Well, the lack of ownership and initiative is clear. If somebody hovers like a drone over you all the time, for sure, it's gonna eventually feel like why should I own this? Why should I show initiative? Because my manager is gonna take it over from me. Also, low levels of innovation. You lose the interest and the spark to innovate, because innovation always means that you have to take a risk. You have to be willing to fail and fumble in order to innovate. That's part of it. And under a micromanager, as we could see, most of those three main kind of root causes try to avoid failure at all cost. So innovation goes down. Productivity goes down. That's for sure. Productivity goes down when people don't have energy and feel like I'm just a small little cog in here trying to do my work. And then talent attrition. Yes, your best talents won't look that for a long time. So that is the challenge of when it doesn't become anymore so silent, when you start to have high levels of attrition. I'm gonna look what Asim shared. When people do not trust, they become micromanager. Why? Because this is easy to be. They should start with building trust. Absolutely. I actually, Asim, covered in my last week's Level Up Live how to build trust. So you may want to go check that one out. But so that's the cost. So there is a measurable cost of micromanagement, or the downside of micromanagement. So what's the change? And what I'm in a cheeky way offering here is shifting to macromanagement. How do we help leaders, first of all, be very self-aware? Am I one of the micromanagers or not? And then say, okay, how can I, with easy ways, start shifting from micromanagement to macromanagement? And as I shared, I have a little self-reflection tool for you, so that you can use it for yourself and with with the leaders that you work with. If you have any questions, feel free to share as I go along. But in order to understand micromanagement, we need to, I'm going to bring a psychological term from personality psychology called locus of control. If you've heard about the locus of control or haven't, maybe drop a note in the chat so I know how commonly known this is, because I could bet it's not, but it's a game changer in understanding micromanagement. So micromanagement, in the context of micromanagement, the locus of control is definitely something that leaders should understand in order to then help the shift to the right direction. The locus of control, two sides, internal and external. So locus of control is basically looking at how do we feel, how much influence we have on the outcomes in our lives. And as you know, I like analogies, so I put another one there, a very easy one. Are you a bus driver or a passenger? So those who have a very strong internal locus of control, they feel really responsible for the outcomes in their lives. They feel like, you know what I do will directly influence the outcomes as well. They believe that they have actually the power to shape what's happening out externally, and what they have the power to influence the circumstances as well. And they are proactive. They feel motivated and in control, and that's their intent is to improve the environment. So that's the one side of the locus of control. And these are the bus drivers. These are the ones that will, with white knuckles, kind of hold on to the wheel, steering wheel. And yeah, there's not many people in that bus who might be able to then come drive or try drying. So there's quite a lot of passengers behind. Then let's have a look at the other side. I think you know what comes now. On the other side, you have then people with a very external locus of control. So these are the passengers. These are the people who say, you know what? The world happens around us, and we don't really have much influence on what's going to happen. So, you know what? Anything I do does not make much of a difference. So they don't believe in trying to steer everything and that to think that will change anything. They might come across more passive in that sense. And in some cases, on a downside, they may seem a bit more like a victim. They might be seen as a helpless victim, victim of the circumstances. So they are more on the bus, on the passenger side. So that's the two sides of the locus of control, the external ones and the internal ones. Now, what does this have to do with micromanagement? Micromanagement is the ones with strong internal locus of control. It comes from often from a very good place. They come from a place of believing that everything they do improves the environment, improves what's going on, and improves the outcome. And even if it comes from insecurity or discomfort or trying to protect the image, their strong internal locus of control is one of the reasons why they are micromanaging. If you look at on the other side, laissez-faire management style are the ones with extreme external locus of control. Those who say, "Nah, okay, let's move on, and the team will know what to do," and the team is kind of shrugging shoulders and looking around for support and guidance at times. And that's also a challenging part of leadership when you have a laissez-faire kind of management style. And often a reason why micromanagers, if confronted, they will say, well, should I then let go of everything and not do anything? What good will that do? And that's often where the conversation then stops, unfortunately, because a micromanager in this case has almost like washed their hands off from the conversation because they pointed out the downside of a laissez-faire type of a management style. And those who don't know about laissez-faire, it's a French word meaning kind of let go, let do, kind of more of a style of letting go, letting teams do what they want, not being involved so much, not steering, guiding, directing. So the other extreme of micromanagement. And the macromanagement is somewhere in between and is beneficial for both those who are in the micromanagement side, but also those who are in the laissez-faire management style. So if you have as a leader somebody who is on one of the sides, you can try to help them shift more closer to micromanagement. Micromanagers to move a bit more to external locus of control and releasing that need to influence outcomes, and the other ones, the laissez-faire management, feeling that yes, they play a role as a leader in changing the outcome. Any questions about this one? Feel free to drop in a question if that's something that you have in mind. Great. So, oh yes, there comes a question about, and how does this look in practice? I love that, because that's exactly what I'm going to do now. We are going to look, and this is very small in this place, but bear with me. In practice, if you look at, for example, some of the leadership behaviors like decision-making and perfection, or trusting the team's abilities. A micromanager, when it comes to decision making, will often do and override all the decisions that the team does, and feels the need that I need to be present in every single little smallest decision and get it perfect. And what you can see there is also a reflection question underneath. Do I micromanage things that actually the team could decide on and should decide on? Whereas a laissez-faire management style is then maybe avoiding entering decisions and thinking, oh well, let the team cover those. Whereas the reflection question for self-reflection there is, are you letting too much? You are creating an environment for the team to step in, but are you creating any guidance or making sure that we are staying within the goals? And then micromanagement there in between is the kind of sweet spot in between. So how do you, when it comes to decision making, how do you make sure that the team feels empowered to make the decisions? So when you delegate, you don't only delegate the task, but also their decision power, and you balance the moments when you step in or step out. There's another example as well about how to trust the team's abilities, and how often do you, as a micromanager, go and fix things because you feel like I could probably do it better, and you, others might see you as nitpicking, so to say. Or where in laissez-faire, it's then an overestimation of the team's abilities and not getting involved. We have a comment. Thank you, Ankit. It's hard to get rid of, but trusting the team is best because when we trust someone and appreciate it, improves work performance. Absolutely. And this is the part we discussed also in my last week's building trust, is how do we get into a place of trust and where people can openly share about what they have as ideas, or what, if they struggle, that they feel also that they can share that. Super important point, Ankit, as well, about trust. Now, as promised, I have a tool. Before we look into the tool, next week, we will look into how to know it all or how to know it not. And that really goes also hand in hand with the micromanagement versus macromanagement. A macromanager will know, you know what, I don't know even all the answers. Let's find it out. It's almost like a humble leadership style. Whereas a micromanager feels that they need to know everyone and everything. They have the answer to everything. So on my website, I've updated my website a bit. Go have a look. You have until I think end of February, all the upcoming Level Up Lives where you can sign up. I would love to see you there. Now, yeah, this is a busy slide, but it has actually 12 different themes, kind of groupings of leadership behaviors, and how do they come across in micromanagement, how do they come across in laissez-faire management, and how do they come across in macromanagement. So, and that's the conversation that you can, maybe you do it first for yourself. You look, where do you, how do you answer to the reflection questions in each of those 12 points, and see, okay, is your tendency more to the left, to the right, or are you somewhere in the middle? But that's the tool, as promised, for you to use either for yourself or with your teams as a self-reflection tool. And you might be wondering, but where do I get that? Well, some good news. I stopped sending all these documents via DMs and all sorts of different links. I created a lounge. which you can find. You can enter it free. For example, in the lounge currently is the I just don't trust, the one about trust that I mentioned earlier. So I will always post these keynotes as full there. You can download them. You can watch replays as well. There's going to be the replay button there is as well, link there as well. So in fact, just before this session, I downloaded this presentation into the lounge. So please go and have a look. And the thing is, it's still under construction. I'm building it, so please bear with me. It's if you find some cracks in the walls, let me know. I'll try to fix them. But hopefully this makes it easier and quicker. If this topic interests you, just go into the lounge. And when you're in the lounge, you will always be notified of when I go live and what the topic is, and you will get directly then the link where to find the downloadables and the replays as well. Thank you, Maria. Thank you for the notion of great topics. Yes, and I also am open for any other topics. So I'm building up. My challenge is 52 level up lives this year. I hold myself accountable for that. So if you have any topics where you say, you know what, this would be really important for me and my leaders, you know where to find me. Just ping me and I will add it to the calendar for the coming year. Any questions at this point? Any questions that would come around micromanagement versus macromanagement, and where does it come from, but also how to help leaders with the help of this tool to become more self-aware, but also shift towards macromanagement? Happy to take if you have any questions. A question coming about how, yes. When it comes to behavior change, I always say where's the lowest hanging fruit? So some micromanagers or some leaders who have micromanager tendencies, including myself, if you've looked at my posts this week, I confessed I went kind of vulnerable and shared I used to be a micromanager in my early years. I did not know that. I had no clue. I was doing it for the kind of, it came out of insecurity largely. But the point here is, if somebody would have had with me that conversation, that would have really been helpful for personally to be able to say, okay, so what are the behaviors? And okay, here I'm doing, I'm being a micromanager, and hey, here I'm doing more of a macromanager. So with those who have a blind spot on micromanagement, I really recommend take it gently. Take it gently. Look for an opportunity where you can maybe together do this sheet with them, and then ask what's the easiest, lowest hanging fruit that you can do to start shifting from micro to macro. That would be my advice. Because when they feel it's like a big mountain, then nobody wants to climb that. But if you can chunk it into a small little chunks, that helps already a lot. Another quick question. Yes, so I'm planning to theme these conversations. So this January, for example, is going to be a lot about kind of self-knowledge as a leader. About building trust and understanding the neuroscience of that. February, I'm gearing up for really well-being, resilience, and burnout, and how to spot it in yourself and in others. As that, I feel, goes hand in hand with that kind of self-knowledge that we are building now here in January, with understanding how we react in conflict situations, how do we react with emotional triggers, how do we build trust, and how do we manage. So that in February, the focus on resilience and well-being is going to be a key one. So I'm trying to create themes per month, so it helps you to kind of see these kind of bundles come through. Well, if there's no more questions, then I will thank you so much for watching me today, and see you next week. As said, we are going to talk about humble leadership, why it's not so good always to know it all, but it's better to know it not, and figure it out together with your team. All right. Everybody have a great weekend, and see you next week. Bye for now.